John Perry recounts that in the spring of 1918, after completing phases of training at Pike, this contingent was sent to Camp Beauregard in central Louisiana. And from that point on, they were clustered with Louisiana and Mississippi counterparts. And after a period of training there, down into the summer, they went by train to New Orleans and then coastwise boat to Newport News, where they boarded to make the crossing. He recounts failures of cooling systems on the troop ship, which, beyond just sort of discomfort situations, it caused food shortages. There was some food spoilage. So they sort of had to ration food for part of the trip. There was some harassment from German submarines. But they made port at Brest. And within a day's march was a facility, and once again, I'm just going by John Perry's account. They referred to it as Napoleon Camp. It seems to have once been some sort of prison facility, but it was converted into barracks for what would be replacement troops. And while, as noted, it was Pershing's wish that American units would fight as American units, for this particular group, they wound up in the role of replacement troops. More often than not, a couple of companies of machine gun troops or artillery or infantry, or maybe a battalion's worth, would be sent out where replacements were needed. Of course, where replacements were needed were probably the places you didn't really want to go to. Down from the hills and up from the bayous, out of the bottomlands we came, and tunics and helmets and overseas caps, we pretty much looked the same. Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas boys, troop trains, troop ships off to France. We got there late, so where we got sent was pretty much up to chance. We were replacements, Napoleon Camp replacements. Somewhere up there a bulldozer blade was making one big hole where bodies were laid. And they were sending word back, we need some more replacements. I guess in the long run it don't really matter, disease or mustard gas or shells. They take the dog tags and names when they could, sometimes they couldn't tell. They were pulled from the trenches, picked up from the fields, laid one by one or score by score. For everyone laid in the cold French soil, they'd send out for one more. We were replacements, Napoleon Camp replacements. Somewhere up there a bulldozer blade was making one big hole where bodies was laid. They were sending word back, we need some more replacements. When armistice came, we got pulled back. We guarded prisoners for a while. Them and crowded into ships, into bunks and hammocks, wouldn't say we slept in style. When we got back home, there were ghosts among us. I could see face after face after face that belonged in homes all across this land. They were the ones we couldn't replace. We were replacements, Napoleon camp replacements. Somewhere back there, a bulldozer blade was smoothing the land where bodies were laid. People were praying, never more need replacements. I'm going to be careful to stay within my time allocation, so I'm going to talk just a little bit. I'll talk just a little bit longer here for this first one, and the others. Let me say one other thing about the event that Mark spoke about. We did the event on Sunday Memorial Weekend, and one of the things that the grant allowed us to do was to have that recorded, and there are CDs available that are a condensation of that day's events. And I'll tell you that our Stone County Historical Society occupies the old school building in Mountain View. The auditorium was probably about altogether 3 times. But we had to scramble around for extra chairs. We had a house full, and it was quite well received. A trio harmony, Mark mentioned, who worked with me on the Arkansas Stories project, actually did the performance. You're stuck with the songwriter here today. I wish you could have heard them, but the CD is available. Most of the thread of the narrative that I used that day came from one John Perry, Stone County boy, and I simply went with his descriptions, and they may or may not square with very precise research that you folks do, so you'll have to just give me that sort of latitude. And a comment about this very first song and the feel of it. When Dr. Fisher talked about the light-hearted exuberance that marked the entry point, that caused me to do sort of an uncharacteristic thing with this song. In the whole Arkansas Stories project, whatever stories, I try to write straightforward narrative, put to a very simple musical format, right? But every once in a while I get something will strike me. And there was that feel about John Perry's interview that caused me to write this first one in lost time. There was just sort of an ironic, light-hearted exuberance about his description. He said that notices began to arrive in spring of 1917, and then calls to report to the local draft board in Mountain View went out between September 15 and 19, which caused me to think when I was getting ready for this. He didn't say exactly what day they assembled and made their way up to Silmore Crossing to the railroad, but it might have been 100 years ago today. Very possibly was. About 42 of them gathered, had a picture taken in front of the store. The store is still there. I don't think it's the same building, but Lancaster Store is right on the square. It was Lancaster Store where they assembled. Had a picture taken. And in a caravan of wagons and a couple of Model Ts and several people walking, they made 5 or 6 miles up to Silmore, crossed over on the ferry,
The river was low, so they had to wade out to get onto the ferry, cross to the other side where the railroad spur was, and went by rail, then down to Kensett, picked up some arrivals from other places, made their way to Camp Pike, which was in the process of construction. And they'd come overnight, and there was a little delay about getting breakfast because things weren't really set up very well. They managed some breakfast and then entered their training, basic training, and then were assigned out to artillery infantry and to machine gun battalions and met their first enemy. The Spanish flu, so-called, which took so many lives within the military and around the country, the strain of, quote, Spanish flu, as you all know, that took most American lives actually originated in Kansas. As a result of that, according to what I was able to determine, and now my research is not deep in these areas, it appears to me that for incidents of deaths related to flu and measles and whatnot, particularly flu, the incidence of that was greatest at Fort Riley, Kansas. It appears to me that the second greatest incidence of that probably was Pike. Ephraim Rushing, part of the family after whom the little Russian community is named, died on February 2, 1918. Got his notice, swallowed it down. He joined all the others from the hills of the town. They signed those papers, raised their hands, swore to service to the land. They were thrown together, 50,000 or more, like we do when we're rushing to run to some war. They drilled in the snow, dug in the ground, weren't enough minutes to drown. Camp Pike, when they came, was half built and new. First came all the boys, and then came the flu. For him, it was measles, but it ended the same. That list of 500 included his name. Never made it out of Camp Pike. Some died at Chateau Tree in Oregon. Some made it home to carry life on. Some told their stories, some never would. They tried to forget all they could. When you come to his name, you know you're right. He went off to war, never got into the fire. Camp Pike, when they came, was half built and new. First came all the wars, and then came the flu. For him, it was the measles, we ended the same. That list of 500 included his name. Never made it out of Camp Pike.
I talked with one of my neighbors because I knew that his father had been in a soldier in World War I, and it resulted in this one, which is, I guess, in a way, a sort of a novelty piece. Chuck Hastings' dad, Holloman Hastings, actually grew up in Mississippi and ironically met some of his future neighbors at Camp Beauregard. because he moved to Stone County after the war. But he, as the first line in the song says, was a bottomland plowboy. And when he got to Camp Beauregard, the Army did an uncharacteristically sensible thing and noted his experience as a plowboy and put him in charge of the stables. There obviously were mechanized conveyances during World War I, but the bulk, particularly once you got close to the front lines, transport was motivated by mules and horses. Very high proportion mules, by the way, with which a Mississippi bottomland plowboy would certainly be familiar. But, and so that kind of became the hook for this piece. But as I started doing a little looking around, it kind of went beyond that. Dogs were used for sending messages across no man's land. They also were used. You would strap essentially first aid supplies on a dog, and I don't know. I guess, well, we can't get a medic out there. We'll send him a pack of stuff by dog, and he can treat himself, I guess was the logic to that. Then, of course, there were pigeons used for messaging. And I don't know whether cats were actually brought in and imported on purpose, but they became important in the trenches for killing rats. So this winds up being titled The Other Soldiers. Style-wise, I'm probably fudging a little bit, maybe, and using a sort of country blues style on this, and I thought, is that fudging period-wise? And I decided maybe it wasn't, and besides all that, I'd already written a song about some years ago, about the Separate Coach Act in 1891, and put it in that style, so I just decided not to worry about that. I was a bottomland plowboy working horses and mules. Was natural as drawing breath. I never once thought about pulling some wagon into shells and gas and death. Down at Camp Beauregard, I fed a man, I patted, but after we're gone and Chateau-Thierry, the mules and the horses, a lot of other critters, were just other soldiers to me. I got gassed at Argonne, buried by a blast, but I knew the reasons why. The mules and the horses and the dogs and the birds knew nothing but to work and die. They hauled the ammo wagons, hauled the big guns, through thickets and ridges and mud, and I always wondered what they made of all the thunder and the sight of their own blood. The dogs kept watch and carried Red Cross packs. The pigeons flew messages over the lines. They were all the other soldiers with lives at stake, just the same as mine. I got gassed at Argonne, buried by a blast, but I knew the reasons why. The mules and the horses and the dogs and the birds knew nothing but to work and die. These days all along the Western Front, white crosses stand in rows. They mark the graves of the boys who died, but where a mule rests, no one knows. There's pictures of the boys coming home on ships, flag waving crowds by the railroad tracks, but I wonder how many of the horses and the mules and the dogs and the birds made it back. I got gassed at Arkansans, buried by a blast, but I knew the reasons why. The mules and the horses and the dogs and the birds knew nothing but to work and